When you are king, dilly dilly, I will be queen. Call up your men, dilly dilly, set them to work. Some to the plough, dilly dilly, some to the cart. Some to make hay, dilly dilly, some to thresh corn. Whilst you and I, dilly dilly, keep ourselves warm. Lavender's green, dilly dilly, lavender's blue. You must love me, dilly dilly, 'cause I love you. I heard one say, dilly dilly, since I came here, that you and I, dilly dilly, must lie together. Lavender's blue, dilly dilly, lavender's green. When you are king, dilly dilly, I will be queen. My hostess maid, dilly dilly, her name was Nell. She was a lass, dilly dilly, that I loved well. But if she died, dilly dilly, by some mishap, then she shall lie, dilly dilly, under the tap. Lavender's blue, dilly dilly, lavender's green. When you are king, dilly dilly, I will be queen. Let the birds sing, dilly dilly, and the lambs play. We shall be safe, dilly dilly, out of harm's way. Lavender's blue, dilly dilly, lavender's green. When you are king, dilly dilly, I will be queen. Lavender's blue, dilly dilly, lavender's green. When you are king, dilly dilly, I will be queen. Brillig and the slithy toasted gyre and gimble in the wave. Oh, Mimsy, where the burrow goes and the mome ruts south grey. Beware the jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jub-jub bird and shun, the frumy Hispanic snatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a word in thought. And as in owfish thought he stood, the jabberwock with eyes of flame came whistling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snake a snack. He left it dead, and with his head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the jabberwock? Come to my arms, my liege boy. Oh, fractious day, Calu Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas a fiddly
All right. That was the very excellent first two tracks of the album A Pocket Full of Posies by Medieval Baebes, arranged by Katharine Blake, who you see at the bottom of the screen. And many of the instruments on the album were contributed by Charlie Kaywood, who is on the upper left side of the screen. Katharine and Charlie, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate it. And this album is so excellent. You should be very proud of your work.
Well, thanks,
We are.
Anthony.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on the show.
You're welcome. It's truly, it's one of the most surprising records I've heard in a long time. And that first song is so misleading, Lavender's Blue, because it's so peaceful and wonderful. And then the second song, the Jabberwock, starts getting into this kind of twisted, what is happening? And the whole album feels almost like a David Lynch, you're in a dream sort of state because you don't know what's real and you don't know what's not. And the album takes all of these twists and turns. So, Katharine, I would love to hear some of your perspective on what led you to arrange these songs in particular and in such a surprising and unorthodox way.
Well, when I became a mum, I obviously, my children needed to be entertained. So, there's a lot of nursery rhyme stuff out there, just children's entertainment in general. I just thought most of it was really boring and two-dimensional and bland. And I thought that children, deserve something better than that, particularly when you're young. When you're that young, your imagination is firing off in all directions. And I thought it'd be good to give younger children as well as adults something more interesting to work with, something that was more challenging and more psychedelic. I think that's something that adults and children can both all relate to in the same way. Psychedelia doesn't, it's use certificate, but adults like it too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the idea of an album the whole family can enjoy as well was one of the aims. But also, I think the process of making the album was very much informed by my partner, who died during the making of it. So I went to an extremely dark place. I think that comes out in the music, but it appropriately so, because a lot of nursery rhymes, the origins of them, or the kind of are often very dark. I mean, a lot of it is just speculative, and a lot of the stories no one really knows for sure where they came from or how old they are. But there's definitely some dark undertones in a lot of the words, that's for sure. So I think to reflect that in the music was appropriate, and it also reflected my state of mind at the time.
You mentioned the booklet. I just want to pull this up here. With the vinyl comes this incredible, huge booklet.
Yeah, that took quite a long time sorting out the artwork. I mean, the music took 4.5 years, and then I ended up writing a book. I thought I was just going to write a couple of sentences on each nursery rhyme, but because I'm quite obsessive, it became a sort of runaway train. I ended up writing stuff about every single rhyme, and then it turned into a book. And apart from Marie Findlay, who you see there, who wrote a foreword talking about nursery rhymes, and my friend Steve Gelbert, who wrote about the music from a more sort of psychedelic musical point of view, that I wrote all the stuff, which took a very long time, but not as long as the album, which 24 tracks really was pretty epic,
Yeah, and the artwork is gorgeous.
That's a left Silver Colombian artist who Marie from the band researched and found him to do the artwork.
I had no idea the record came with this booklet. So when I opened it up, I was just mesmerized. And I've shown it to all of my friends. Everyone who comes over, I'm like, you've got to hear this album. You've got to see the packaging. It's just so beautiful. So I think the CD comes with the small version of the booklet as well, right?
It's a hardback book in the CD version.
Okay, yes. So I just want to encourage everyone who watches this to check out the link at the bottom of the screen. It's the Medieval Baebes Bandcamp link directly to the album. And you can buy the CD or the vinyl or just the digital copy there. But I really want to encourage you to buy the physical copy because the artwork is so beautiful and this booklet is wonderful. Can you talk a little about the research I imagine you put into I'm sure you didn't have 30 or 40 nursery rhymes just memorized. I'm sure you had to do some research. Can you talk through the process of assembling these songs and how you kind of interpreted which one should go in which direction, how psychedelic, etc.?
Well, the nursery rhyme Bible is the Oxford Dictionary of Nursery Rhymes, which has got all the most ancient versions of the rhymes in. And some of them I adapted a bit, like, for instance, one of the first songs I did, Lavender's Blue, for instance, the original lyric goes diddle diddle. And then I played it to a few people, and everyone just kept going, but it doesn't go diddle diddle, it goes dilly dilly. And I just thought, I'm just going to change it because I can't face everyone just saying that every time I hear it. So some of them, updated a bit. And I mean, I don't know how exactly I decided which ones to make weird and which ones to not make weird. I think sometimes the more sort of sweet and innocent they are, the more effective it is when they get subverted, like Humpty Dumpty, for instance.
Yes.
It just on a hell of a journey, doesn't it, down the rabbit hole?
We are going to listen to that one.
Yeah, I think like there was a crooked man. I mean, that obviously lends itself to something very dark and angular and nightmare-like. That's pretty obvious to make that one weird, isn't it? And then Cock Robin, it's about a bird's funeral, and it's got this sort of childlike kind of ethereal quality to it, but it's also very, very menacing at the same time. And it's like sort of naive, like kind of a cross between naive and evil.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sophie used to be in the band called it that. it's that contrast between the childlike innocence and the much more sinister adult backstories that really make it. It's that duality that I definitely wanted to bring out in the music, and that's why it's important to write the book as well, so people can listen to the nursery rhyme and read about the context, some of which is extremely dark, particularly Mary Mary Quite Contrary, which is that's one of the more sort of sweet and innocent sounding ones, but the backstory is very dark. It's about instruments of genital torture, for instance, and silver bells and cockle shells. I mean, it's it's pretty nasty stuff, but you wouldn't know that to hear it. So I think that it sort of belies the more sinister kind of content.
And someone turned it into a nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
Can you introduce Charlie and his involvement with the album as well?
Well, Charlie started working on it, I think, was it just shortly after Nick died you started getting to work on it?
It's a little bit before. It wasn't long after I came into the band, which was in 2014. Sort of, I joined I replaced Carvis in the live lineup.
Yeah.
And Carvis Tarabi from Knife World and Cardiacs and Gong, who I worked with for some years before that. And I know the album. Yeah. And I know at the time a lot of the tracks were already kind of in sort of skeletal form, and you'd mentioned that you have this sort of new project on the go, which is just sort of starting. I remember coming round once or twice very early on to put down some people or something, some kind of unusual stuff, and then that's when Nick got ill, and then it was a long time after that. Slowly we sort of started getting back into recording again when you're in your new place. And
Nick had actually played on quite a lot of the songs, and so a lot of what Charlie was doing was kind of partly just sort of augmenting what he'd done on acoustic guitar with all this amazing array of instruments to try and make it sound more exotic, so it wasn't just such a traditional kind of folk sound. And also Charlie was coming up with lots of new parts and sometimes actually replacing some of Nick's parts that he'd played on the guitar on different instruments. So it was it's like we were both sort of collaborating with Nick from Beyond the Grave in quite a lot of it, But Charlie plays about 12 instruments on this album. And it was
12? Yeah. It's 12. Yeah, I counted. And it was.
Came round so many times. You must have come over to mine about 30 times, something like that.
I can't remember. It was a period of years, and I remember by that point Nick had passed, and all of his arrangements sort of existed still in these sort of some of them sort of scratch recordings of just sort of demo arrangements, and that's all we had left to work with.
Yeah.
And it was kind of I think it must have been several years of me just sporadically, just because you live like 20 minutes from me on one train, so it's just me grabbing whatever instruments I could, taking it on the train and sort of just seeing what I could bring this time. And also there was at the time there were a few instruments that were just sort of lying around your place. So there was a lyre that a Medieval Baebes fan.
By a fan at a signing session after a gig in America. This bloke just came up and went, "Have this beautiful lyre."
This thing.
Yeah, and then he scuttled off. I had no idea who he was. He didn't leave his email, so I couldn't thank him. But that thing's all over this album like a rash. And we've got this
just there, yeah.
We create what's called Charlie creates what's known as a neutral lyre bed. So it's sort of quite kind of almost sort of invisible kind of
an NLB, yeah.
Yeah. And often you were playing that in the track, and then it'd be like, hang on, if I solo this and stick it at the end, it makes a great sort of psychedelic outro to build on. So that lyre ended up resulting in three of the songs having a really cool outro, didn't it?
Yeah, and there was that, and also that you had that there was I think a German zither that was just lying around in your place, like which I have here. It now lives with me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wrestle that back off Charlie one day.
All right, well, we've talked for a little bit. Let's get back to some of the music. We're gonna play Ba Ba Black Sheep and then Humpty Dumpty.
Excellent.
And for the listeners, just be prepared. It's gonna get a little weird.
Ba, black sheep, have you any wool?
Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for the master and 1 for the dame, and 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane. Ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for the master, 1 for the dame, and 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall.
That is just so great.
Far out.
It's far out, definitely. I have such a big smile on my face every time I hear these songs because it's just nobody has done anything like this. I just love it, and I think what you've done is really art, and that's what I try to feature here on the channel. People who make art, not people who slap music together, for for sale. This is something bigger. So I'm really glad we can be sharing this together.
Thank you.
Katharine, can you tell us a little bit about Medieval Baebes? I imagine there are going to be several people outside the UK who may never have heard of Medieval Baebes. So perhaps a little bit of history and what you've done with that group.
Well, the band will actually be going 25 years. Next year we'll celebrate our 25th anniversary. So, it all started out in '96, and initially it was just a recreational, fun thing that I persuaded some of my good friends to do. And it just it was so much fun that we kept doing it, and it invited new people to join in, and it wasn't initially an attempt for it to be my next career move, but
well, what is it? I mean, I think medieval, you're not getting into the uniqueness of it.
Yeah, I started off just inviting my friends over to sing some medieval music, and it was just so much fun. And then I started setting my own medieval poetry and setting it to music. So I started out doing traditional stuff, and then I started composing stuff myself using medieval text, Middle English. And a year later, we actually got a record deal with Virgin, which was, things moved very, very quickly. And given that most of the women in the band didn't have any sort of classical backgrounds or little performance or musical experience, it worked phenomenally well. Like in a way, it was just sort of an experiment to see what it would sound like with untrained voices singing this kind of material, rather than a lot of sort of early music you hear sung by people that are obviously very trained and it might sound a bit operatic. And I thought it'd be nice to do something a bit more raw and spirited. And 25 years later, and after many, many different sort of reincarnations, lots of people have, left, lots of people have joined. It's still going, and it still has the same sort of spirit about it, though, obviously there's been a lot of musical developments and things have changed a lot over the years. But it's just so much fun. I'm missing all the ladies, actually, and obviously you and Ben, Charlie, really miss, doing gigs and stuff at the moment, because we have so much fun when we're together. We put all those women together. It's like a sort of hen night on wheels, So I think that's sort of has kept it going as much as the music is just the sort of sisterhood of it, which is, a very unique thing.
And for people who've never seen any footage or anything, it's not like a group of women just getting together to sing. I mean, you have outfits, period outfits. You have Go ahead. They don't really, we don't sort of wear medieval costumes as such. It's sort of more of a sort of pre-Raphaelite kind of romanticized sort of interpretation, a sort of more fairy tale interpretation of the medieval period. The plan isn't to be in any way authentic in what we wear or the way we present the music. It's very much more sort of fantasy, otherworldly kind of experience, rather than trying to be a historically accurate one. And so, right. And it's beautiful. I mean, what you do, you and all the other women are very stoic, but very fairy-like. It's definitely fantasy in person. And I just love watching the videos of you guys perform. It's totally unique. Because you're not trying to be historically accurate, and you're not trying to, be some sort of, I don't know, period group. You're just being a group of great singers who love to sing this type of music in a very fantastical way.
Yeah. I mean, there's enough people out there doing sort of more authentic early music type things. And, I think it's good that we embrace something different and take people on more of a journey to another universe, a fantasy universe, rather than trying to go back in time stoically,
Charlie, I know you got involved in the band, you mentioned in 2014, I believe it was, after Kavas left. But had you heard of Medieval Baebes, or had you seen them live before you joined the band?
I'd actually heard of the band quite early on. I remember more or less when they first became well known back in the sort of the late 90s. And because, signed to Virgin, you'd hear about them a lot in the media. It was almost sort of marketed almost like a sort of pop classical thing at the time. And it just sort of kind of changed kind of gradually. I remember my GCSE music teacher really didn't like them, and sort of mentioned that in one of our classes, and now I'm still friends with him on Facebook. Lovely guy. Now he sees that I'm playing in Medieval Babes.
Is he
I'd hope that he's proud. And then I sort of heard the name again on and off, and then I realised that because I came into sort of bands like playing in bands with like Knife World through like the sort of the Cardiac-y scene, I did sort of slowly realise that there was a sort of crossover. Like Katharine would be on the same bill as like the first Knife World gig I saw before I was in the band. Was with From the Deep supporting, which was Katharine's sort of other project with Nick, and I realised that there's sort of this sort of odd crossover, and then Carvis was in the band as well as he's a previous sort of instrumentalist, and I didn't actually see them perform, and then I ended up sort of joining. So I've never seen a Medieval Babes gig, but I've played kind of lots of them.
Cool. So I want to remind people who are on the live stream. You're welcome to ask questions, and we're happy to pass those questions on. There's been a lot of very complimentary comments on the music and the artwork, and someone even said they're going to go buy the vinyl, which is great. That's the whole point of this. So,
just get the CD out because so I thought I could show that, which is like a little hardback book.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. There's the CD.
Yes. Please buy the CD. Please buy the vinyl. And if physical media is just not an option for you, like shipping from the UK or whatever, buy the digital, copy. What's great about Bandcamp, if you're not familiar with them, is it lets you listen to the whole album for free 1, 2, or maybe 3 times, and then it says, hey, you seem to be enjoying this, you should buy it, and then it won't let you buy it anymore. But once you do buy it, you can stream it as much as you want from Bandcamp, and they have a great app for music streaming. So it's a great way to support artists. For people who don't know, Spotify pays 1/10,000th of a cent per play or something like that. So there's really no money for musicians when we stream music through these services. The money goes to computer programmers and executives and record companies. So buying from Bandcamp supports the actual artist. And I recommend Bandcamp. Just look through there. And in fact, the last couple months, I think on the first day of the month, they've had sales where 100% of the revenue goes to the artist. So please support Medieval Babes and Charlie's music. He's got excellent solo albums that you can purchase on Bandcamp. Yeah, 2 solo albums, and they are incredible. I've featured both of them on the channel, so feel free to search Make Weird Music for Charlie Kaywood and his music as well. So let's get to a couple more tracks. Katharine, any ones in particular you think we should hear?
I love Who Killed Cock Robin. I think Gun to the Head, that might be my favourite. It's hard to choose.
How about we do There Was a Crooked Man and Who Killed Cock Robin right afterward?
Yeah, beginning of the second disc, yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's hear it.
He found a crooked sixpence, a upon a crooked staff. He bought a crooked cat, which got a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a little crooked house. There was a crooked man, and he walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence upon a crooked staff. He bought a crooked cat, which got a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a little crooked house. Who killed Cock Robin? I said the sparrow, my bow and arrow. I killed Cock Robin. Who saw him die? I said the fly, with my little eye. I saw him die. Who caught his blood? I said the fish, with my little dish. I caught his blood. Who'll make the shroud? I said the beetle, with my thread and my needle. I'll make the shroud. Who'll dig his grave? I said the owl, with my pick and my shovel. I'll dig his grave.
Who'll be the parson? I said the rook, with my little book. I'll be the parson.
Who'll be the clock? I said the lock. If it's not in the dark, I'll be the clock.
Who'll carry the link?
I said the linnet. I'll fetch it in a minute. I'll carry the link. Who'll be the chief mourner? I said the dove. I'll mourn for my love. I'll be the chief mourner.
Carry the coffin. I said the kite. If it's not through the night, I'll carry the
Who'll bear the pole? We said the wren, both the cock and the hen will bear the pole. Who'll sing a psalm? I said the thrush, as she sat on a bush. I'll sing a psalm.
Who'll toll the bell? I said the bull, because I can pull. I'll toll the bell.
All the birds of the air, and a sighing and a sobbing when they heard the bell toll. Oh, poor Cock Robin.
Just wonderful. It's hard not to like almost laugh. You know, Charlie and I at the end of What was the first one? Oh, There Was a Crooked Man.
There Was
We're
a
both
Crooked
like,
Man.
yeah, we're both chuckling. Is that a normal response for you guys?
I played that song when I was towards the end of making my last album, Blowing Into Motion. I played There Was a Crooked Man to Amir Shawat, my engineer and producer, and he was sort of listening to it, just kind of amazed. And at the end, he was like, "It sounds like The Residents."
That's exactly what Mike said. My boyfriend Mike said that. I heard it. So I mean, I don't. Maybe I should check out The Residents.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Residents.
They're like weird and stuff.
And I've also got strong memories of recording because so at the beginning, throughout There Was a Crooked Man, it's stacked hammered dulcimer and zither, like all playing that kind of weird tune in unison. And both of those, well, the dulcimer in particular is very diatonic. It's tuned in major scales, so it's anything that's kind of weird or chromatic is not. So to play each phrase of the tune, then retune the whole instrument to incorporate the next chromatic notes of the next phrase, and then just build it up bit by bit, and it's like over the course of an afternoon.
Yeah, a lot of detuning.
Yeah, that's how that happened.
Yeah, so that's something I wanted to ask about. There's a lot of instrumentation that is almost in tune, and it's hard to tell. I know you do it intentionally. You all are very advanced musicians, but it's hard to tell if it's the instrument, because I don't know. I don't know what a hurdy-gurdy sounds like, in person, and I don't know how to tune these things, But how much intentional, microtonal tuning was happening, and how much is just a result of the instruments, Charlie?
Well, some of them are non-tempered, so I've got a few of them here. So there's got the lyre. So when you tune something like this, when you got open strings, you're tuning it to like an ostinato or like an arpeggio pattern. Like same with the harp. It's pretty much in tune, and it's just about in like equal temperament. But when you've got like strings resonating, you get all these overtones, and it can sometimes sound kind of a bit more interesting. Like there's also a lot of like Chinese instruments on the album as well. So this little one, Catherine's favorite, the Liu Qin.
That was on favorite. Who Killed Cock Robin? The dun,
Yes.
dun, 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 that's
throughout the whole tune.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
and when you've got like Chinese instruments, they're pretty much an equal temperament, but the intonation isn't like 100% perfect. You've got particularly in like upper registers. So there's a bit of that, and also like there's a bit of saz on the album as well, and that's got like quarter tonal frets. So there's maybe a little bit of that in there. But also a lot of the arrangements and sort of melodies, and some of them use a lot of like chromaticism, and some of it's kind of intentionally dissonant. And there's lots of like bitonality and tritonality. So it's
particularly oranges and lemons. That like quad tonality or something. I don't know what we'd call it, but there's about 4 keys going on at the end in that one, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of dissonance going on, and occasionally you might have like because some of the, and also things like dulcimers and zithers, there's lots of open strings resonating, and also with dulcimers you've got like 3 strings per course, so one note is actually 3 strings resonating. So those will never be like 100% perfectly in tune. There's always a little tiny bit of kind of gnarliness there.
Katharine, how much of this did you write into? I imagine you wrote a lot of this in sheet music because it's fairly complex.
I use Sibelius.
Okay, and how much of this microtonality did you handle in the sheet music, or was it just in the studio?
I notated it all.
All of it. Now that brings up another challenge. Some of the vocal performances are also microtonal, and my wife is a singer. I've recorded and produced plenty of my own music, and I just was thinking, this music is so difficult. I mean, what were some of the? Were your singers excited to sing this kind of like slightly off, meandering intonation type melodies?
Well, normally with previous Medieval Baebes albums, I've recorded the whole choir together, at least for the choral sections. With this album, I recorded everyone individually, partly because that was just the way the album developed, and I was doing it in my living room. I didn't have the facilities to record a whole choir there, but also because everything had to be so in tune. When you're using that amount of dissonance, it's not enough for everyone to just be sort of heartily, vaguely singing the right tune.
Right.
It has to be very, very precision based, because otherwise it just sounds like you've done it wrong. So if you're going to be that atonal and that dissonant, it has to be perfectly in tune. So it has the right ring to it of not just sounding like a mistake.
Right. And
that was very time consuming. Because I'd be comping all this stuff and in everyone individually and then putting it together, and it took a very long time.
I can't imagine. I mean, it just hearing, I think I've described this album to people as a spinning top. Like when you spin the top, it's fine, but then it just starts doing this wobble.
Yeah.
And then then it starts doing this, and then eventually it falls over, but the album never falls over. It just kind of like recenters itself and then starts wobbling again. But as a musician, that's extremely challenging. So kudos to you and all of the musicians on the record for pulling that off so well.
Thank you.
So we have a couple of questions in the live stream. Someone asked, who is your soprano these days?
Sophia is the high soprano in Mediaeval Baebes at the moment. She sings By Baby Bunting is a really good example, showcase for her amazing high voice. It's kind of quite a sinister sound, which she revels in. She likes being quite scary. And she sings almost like a sort of castrati, nightmarish
right.
sound, rather than a sort of sweet soprano kind of operatic sound, which is absolutely perfect for this album.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes it's incredibly beautiful, and sometimes you're like, what is happening? It's wonderfully unpredictable. And then Francesco Domenichetti said Bandcamp is doing the full income for the artists on Friday, June 5th. So everyone who's watching this, just watch for that Bandcamp sale on June 5th. And also, Make Weird Music, the community around Make Weird Music has put together a spreadsheet of music that everyone should check out. And I've been sharing that on the last couple sale days. So follow us on social media, and then you'll get to see that spreadsheet. Someone at House of Kia asks, do you fancy doing any more music along these lines, like exploring some Oscar Wilde or more Lewis Carroll material that can all get a little twisted?
Well, that sounds like a good plan. I mean, it's great that Lewis Carroll is now out of copyright.
Yes.
So you could use quite a lot of stuff from his books and not run into any legal problems, which I found out happily about the Jabberwocky. It's recently become public domain. But I mean, the album I'm working on at the moment is a psychedelic plain song album, which I've been recording in Glastonbury and collaborating with people remotely. Charlie's been working on some stuff for it, and various singers have been sending stuff back to me. And it's quite challenging because it's in free time. I haven't done any of it to a click track, and the plan was to get everyone together and conduct it.
Right.
But now people just have to listen to my guide vocal as in place of me using my hands and conducting people in real life. But I've had some really good stuff back, and I think it's going to work. So that's what's up next.
Oh, excellent.
Done as soon as possible, really.
Can't wait to hear it.
Time on my hands, obviously.
ASMR Ocelot asks, how many people are involved live on stage in concert during normal non-COVID times?
9. We have 6 singers along the front and 3 musicians at the back. Charlie, Ben, the drummer and percussionist, and we use either a cellist or a viol da gamba player who also contributes vocally.
And Imogen Mangle is asking, how do you perform with so many instruments live? Charlie, I'm guessing you show up with your truck full of instruments and
yeah, I had to have one case like built especially for me by Matt Snowballs, which is like like case maker and tour equipment place in the UK. So I've got one coffin case which is like a couple of instruments in, and then a whole bunch of other. Yeah, it's incredibly impractical.
That's what we go for, right?
Yeah, but it's better than just showing up with an acoustic guitar. So
absolutely.
What are you gonna do?
All right, well, let's listen to a couple more tracks. Let's do Little Bo Peep, and then London Bridge is Falling Down, and then we'll do our goodbyes.
Okay.
Little Bo Peep has lost her sheep and doesn't know where to find them. Leave them alone and they'll come home, bringing their tails behind them. Little Bo Peep fell fast asleep and dreamt she heard them bleating. When she awoke, she found it a joke, for they were still a-fleeting. Then up she took a little crook, did turn and fall to find them. She found them indeed, but it made her heart bleed, for they'd left their tails behind them. It happened one day as Bo Peep did stray into a meadow hard by. There she espied their tails side by side, or hung on a tree to dry. She heaved a sigh and wiped her eye, and over the hillocks went rambling. She tried what she could, as a shepherdess should, to tag each again to its lambkin. Little Bo Peep has lost her sheep and doesn't know where to find them. Leave them alone and they'll come home, bringing their tails behind them.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Build it up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay. Build it up with wood and clay, my fair lady. Wood and clay will wash away, wash away, wash away. Wood and clay will wash away, my fair lady. Build it up with bricks and stones, bricks and stones, bricks and stones. Build it up with bricks and stones, my fair lady. Bricks and stones, they will not stay, will not stay, will not stay. Bricks and stones, they will not stay, my fair lady. Build it up with iron and steel, iron and steel, iron and steel. Build it up with iron and steel, my fair lady. Iron and steel will bend and bow, bend and bow, bend and bow. Iron and steel will bend and bow, my fair lady. Build it up with silver and gold, silver and gold, silver and gold. Build it up with silver and gold, my fair lady. Silver and gold will be stolen away, stolen away, stolen away. Silver and gold will be stolen away, my fair lady. Set a man to watch all night, watch all night, watch all night. Set a man to watch all night, my fair lady. Suppose the man should fall asleep, fall asleep, fall asleep. Suppose the man should fall asleep, my fair lady. Give him a pipe to smoke all night, smoke all night, smoke all night. Give him a pipe to smoke all night, my fair lady. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Wow, those vocal parts are just, those chords throughout the London Bridge is Falling Down are just so beautiful. It's so tight and so many notes clustered. It's wonderful as a musician to hear such complexity on a song like London Bridge.
Yeah, well, the concept is that, you keep trying to build it up with iron and steel and, bricks and stones, but then the BVs sort of keep descending to represent the inevitability of everything ultimately collapsing and falling into the sea. So it's like a fight going on, and the descending parts win.
I love it. Do you spend much time just like reading through sheet music, or is this just like is this an outlet for you? Like I'm curious how much time. I don't really know your musical background, so how much time have you spent like really digging into compositional aspects for?
Well, other people's composition. No, I mean, I don't sort of sit there and look at scores particularly. And,
Okay.
and when I write this stuff, I sing it first and then notate it afterwards. So it's kind of, a lot of it comes from just improvising and just pressing a chord and see what comes out. And then if it's good, I'll notate it so it can be reproduced.
So it's a natural, innate ability.
So, yeah.
That's a blessing. That's so wonderful. All right. So we have just a couple minutes left. Charlie, could you spend a minute sharing where people can find more about you?
Oh, so both of my solo albums, The Divine Abstract and Blurring into Motion, are on Bandcamp under my own name, and I have a website as well, which is in sore need of updating. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the usual things. Yeah.
Okay, great. And Katharine, what about you? Some self-promo time.
Well, obviously there's the Medieval Baebes website, medievalbabes.com. I don't have my own personal Facebook page as such. I just have like a normal account. But there's a lot of fun stuff goes on there. Lots of fun I've been having in lockdown. And I mean, the most recent thing I've been promoting is my partner Nick Marsh's album, who died almost 5 years ago now. And I finished his album last year, and that's now available on Bandcamp as well, Nick Marsh Bandcamp. And I'll send you a link to the SoundCloud actually, so you can check that out.
Well, that would be great. I'd love to hear it.
That's available now, and that's coming out later in June. So go and check that out as well. I sing and play on it, and actually Charlie plays on that as well. He plays Zither, Dulcimer, and Lou Chin, isn't it?
That's right, yeah, those three.
Yeah, the album's called aptly Waltzing Bones, so it's a very celebratory album because a lot of his friends posthumously got to record on the album, so it's like a way of collaborating with him from Beyond the Dead. So that's something I produced and contributed to at the end of last year.
Sounds like a really wonderful project. Yeah. Congratulations on getting it done, and I'm sorry for your loss. It was a tragic story to read in the liner notes. But you've turned your that darkness into something amazing for the world. So thanks for being who you are, and I look forward to hearing Nick's album. So again, everyone who's watching, we've got the link to this album at the bottom of the screen. Please purchase it. Please support Katharine and Charlie. And there's a whole bunch of musicians associated with this group of people, so you can kind of like, spider web out from there and check out what everyone is doing. That's what's great about independent music. It's often groups of musicians who have their own creative lives and tons of output, which is really fun to digest. So thanks again for watching. Please follow Make Weird Music on social media. And we do have another interview coming up with a group called The Crown out of Seattle, led by a guy named Greg Meredith, who is he is a really interesting guy. He spent a lot of time studying with Robert Fripp. He's worked for Microsoft for a couple decades. He invented some new form of calculus, and he's really big into blockchain. And I don't mean like into it like a hobby. Like he runs a company about blockchain. So should be a very interesting interview. And we'll see you then. Look for more info on the social stuff. And we're going to close with Georgie Porgy and Girls and Boys. Thank you again, Katharine and Charlie. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Georgie, Porgy, pudding and pie, kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgie, Porgy ran away. Georgie, Porgy, pudding and pie, kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgie, Porgy ran away. Girls and boys come out to play. The moon does shine as bright as day. Leave your supper and leave your sleep. Join with playfellows in the street. Come with a whoop and come with a coo. Come with a good girl or not at all. Up the ladder and down the wall, a halfpenny loaf will serve us all. You'll find love and all find flowers, with the pudding in half and more. Boys and girls come out to play. The moon does shine as bright as day. Leave your supper and leave your sleep, and join your playfellows in the street. Boys and girls come out to play. The moon does shine as bright as day. Leave your supper and leave your sleep, and join your playfellows in the street. Boys and girls come out to play. The moon does shine as bright as day. Leave your supper and leave your sleep, and join your playfellows in the street. We're done. Yeah.